All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Accuracy in America, brought to you by Accuracy in Academia. I'm your host, Don Irvine, joined by my co-host, Brian McNichol.
Hello, deplorables, dregs, despicables, chumps, Neanderthals, semi-fascists, maggots, and of course those dog-faced pony soldiers.
That's right. All right. So I don't know what the deal is with the sound on my end. I rebooted the computer. The settings all look fine. I may just try to not talk a lot. It may be a shorter.
That 20 seconds in. It's all you, buddy. Yammer for an hour.
Yeah. Take it away. All right. Anyway, in any case, so we've got a big heat wave, but we have this big storm that rolled through, and hit Texas pretty hard.
Right.
Over a million people without power. It's hot there. It's not good. I actually just saw a story where the energy company, CenterPoint Energy, their app has been out since like May. So people can't figure out when the power's coming back. So they use Whataburger.
That's right.
Find out where the power is.
Right. That's right. You track the water. Your Whataburger's open. You're in good shape. Right. That's right. And so what happened was the storm is headed toward the coast, and it went to it sort of broke up and got disorganized, and it didn't land where they thought it was going to land. They had the assets positioned in the wrong place. And I don't know who's to blame for it, because it just looks like the storm did some weird stuff. And then once it got in, there were all these tornadoes embedded in it and so forth. So they were fighting a lot of different things. And the remnants of it made it to Shreveport. And the Shreveport people are telling me, that there was 60-something tornado warnings in Shreveport, in the Shreveport area. Obviously there weren't 60 tornadoes, but there were more than one. There were 5 or 6 or 7 tornadoes that touched down some part of that area. A lot of it, the town called Plain Dealing, Louisiana, up on the Arkansas border, was hit really hard. So this is outside of Houston, but the situation in Houston is, they had the stuff in the wrong place. So, once it happens, it's hard to move everything. Let's move it over to where we need it. That's a lot harder because the roads are flooded, and there's mud and all this kind of stuff, and and it's 105 degrees, and everybody's cell phone is either running out of energy or out of energy, and the cell towers are down, right? So like my cousin wrote on there that she's driving around Houston trying to find a place where they'll pick up her cell, or so she can be heard. So it's a lot of human suffering down there. And Houston's had, it's about the last 5 or 6 years, they've had a steady progression of things hit. It's just been their turn a lot of times in a row.
Yeah, I watched that and I'm like, these are places I just go X off my list.
Yeah, and plus, Houston's a tough place anyway. It's flat. It's very, very hot. There's no getting out of it. It's very humid. It's about 150 days a year that it's over 90 degrees. That's a tough environment just anyway, right? But it's really tough, when it's poured rain and everything's flooded and there's no communications.
Yeah, I'm sure
they're getting better. It's coming back. I'm seeing this morning a lot of Houston people on the Facebook and X and whatnot saying that their power is coming back. So it is, things are headed in the right direction.
Yeah, I'm sure this just draws more scrutiny to the grid and to Texas and everything else.
Yeah, and I guess you saw this, but Biden held up hurricane aid to Texas basically because the leaders are Republicans. He just, and they didn't request, how I want, on my proper request form or whatever. But he basically just politicized hurricane relief. I mean, they really will stop at nothing. They're really despicable people, the Biden administration.
Yeah, and we have humidity here. This seems to be the hottest summer we've had in a while. I mean, we're not necessarily getting the hundreds, but the heat index, the humidity.
There's heat. There's real heat out there now. Like the last few summers. high of 90 was a big deal. Oh, it's all the way up to 90 today. But Virginia, first summer, I moved here. Like one of the big things I moved here for is I got tired of dealing with the heat. I got tired of 150 days a year that it was unpleasantly hot outside. So I'm like, okay, I'll move to Virginia. They're kind of in the middle. You get all 4 seasons. This will be great. First summer I was here, there were something like 23 days of over 100, and like another 40 or so over 90. I mean, it was 1988. It's one of the hottest summers they've ever had in Washington. So I was like, you fooled him, buddy. You did great on that one. So, but since then, it's not been, that's by far the worst summer that there's had since I've been here, the hottest summer. But this one's up there. It's in the top 10, I bet, of the 35 years I've been here.
So if you'd only had Google in 1988, you might not have come here.
I might have chose a little farther north. Although, so like when we were doing our little vacation, we were in Maine, we were in Vermont, we were way up at the top. And it was hot up there too. It was, highs in the mid 80s and steamy and up there they're not used to it. So like nobody's air conditioning is ready for that, right? So it was like almost everywhere I went was they didn't have it cool enough. It was unpleasantly hot.
Yeah,
even on the inside.
That mirrors our experience, a few weeks ago when we went to Pennsylvania, we went to upstate New York, we went over to Ohio. It was hot and humid, and people were just like, oh, they were suffering. It was just unpleasant weather outside.
That's right. And that's one of their big, features is, hey, it's pretty cool here in the summer. Like, well, sort of. But the evenings were really pleasant. So I will say that. We were out at ball games almost every night of the trip. And so that was pretty cool. Got to see baseball all over the country, all over the East Coast.
That's great. That's great. And this week I don't have a file popping up in the background.
Right. That's right. Don't have Marty up back there.
That was fun. That's what I love about going live.
The poor guy that's like, for an hour you got to lay flat. If you say, hey, lay flat. Okay, sure, I do that. But you say, be there for an hour and don't move. That's it becomes a lot tougher then, right?
Yeah, that's what happens though. So NATO is here in D.C. I mean, what are we expecting? I guess Biden is going to speech, trying to resurrect himself in a way.
Yeah, I mean, he gave a very wooden speech last night. He didn't even seem to understand where the emphasis points were. He's just reading from the teleprompter. And he doesn't know like where to put the inflections. You can tell that it's just get me through this without screwing up. So yeah, he can straight read off the teleprompter. He's still got that going for him for now. But I think the damage is done there. I think people don't realize that Biden was in the 30s before the debate, right? He was in bad shape before the debate, and now what the debate did is basically said he's not going to catch up, right? There's no way to surmount that lead because now people can now see, he's basically you're looking down the road, you're saying, okay, they can prop him up to do these various tasks now, right? But you're thinking 2 years from now, some big decision needs to get made. Who makes that decision, right? Because he's not going to be able to make it. He's barely able to talk now. So, what do they do then? Who are those people? And that's the other thing is they won't show you who those people are or what their record of success is, right? But who's going to make the decisions? Because it won't be him. And it's like, this is not a job you can do by committee. You got to have somebody at the top who takes the lightning rod, holds, is the focus of the attention.
Yeah, I can't believe he just told me he gave a wooden speech. The media said he gave a forceful.
Yeah, it was. I mean, he was forceful because he was trying to sound like he's not just reading the teleprompter. I mean, It's like it was like the State of the Union, where he would just scream at weird times. You're like, okay, he doesn't really know when to scream, right? He's just trying to follow a script.
Yeah, it's amazing. So here we are. What is it? Just about 2 weeks after the debate. And this is still dominating the news cycle to a large extent, right? I mean, this shows you how bad this debate was for him, right?
Yeah, no one's ever had a debate that bad. No one's ever lost that bad. And I thought Trump was ready with the good knockout punches when it happened, and did not. The other story of this, the dog won't bark in this, is Trump is doing the exact right thing right now, right? He is staying out of their way and letting them have all the spotlight to discuss Joe's mental fitness for office and all that. You've been seeing on the, if you look at X, like all the lefty political people are like, Trump is in his bunker for 10 days. What's wrong with Trump? He's hiding out. He's afraid of the allegations. I'm like, hey, he ain't afraid of anything. He's watching y'all self-destruct, right? And there's nothing they can do. Now, I will say this. This does not equal automatic blowout, right? There's plenty of time for Biden to sort of try to erase this and so forth. His polling, he actually went up on Rasmussen Daily Track today, from 43 yesterday to 44 today. Now, 45 was, Trump went off at 45 on Election Day 2020. If you believe that election was fair and straight, then you have to believe that 45 is not enough to win. It wasn't enough for Trump. It won't be enough for Biden. But also, they're looking at the battleground states. Pennsylvania's up to 7 or 8 points now. Wisconsin's up to 5 or 6. Things that they thought, once election day nears and people see enough of Trump, they will, okay, never mind, we'll go back to Biden. But it's not happening. It's breaking the other way. There's 4 months. It could turn around, but things are getting cast into stone now that is going to be hard to unearth, hard to change, hard to turn around.
Yeah, I mean, there was from the Cook political report. I mean,
right?
They looked at stuff and things states that likely Democrat or I mean, there's significant changes there in terms of that. Toss up.
Five states they moved toward the Republicans. And all the moves were toward the Republicans. Nothing is moving toward the Democrats. The Senate races are tightening, right? Like Hovde in Wisconsin, he was down 11, and now he's down 5. Sam Brown in Nevada, he was down 14. He's down 3 or 4 now. So all that, they haven't caught yet. They haven't caught up yet. But it looks like Bernie Moreno may have caught up to Sherrod Brown in Ohio, right? So, that what's really driving this is members of Congress are looking at these polls, and they're looking at Biden's situation, and they're like, if we don't step in here, this is going to cost all of us our jobs. So, you're starting to see their survival instincts kick in too, and that's why I think Nancy Pelosi this morning stepped in and said probably Biden should step down. So I think that's a big thing. The Democrat Party is not used to going against Nancy Pelosi. They do sometimes, but it does not happen much, and it's not comfortable to them.
Yeah, I mean, Senator Bennett, talked about potential landslide from Trump. I mean, and give the Republicans the House and the Senate. I mean, I think that goes exactly to what you're saying. Is that this debate, radically changed the map in a lot of cases, which normally it would not have done.
Right, and it's not, most of the people who won't vote for Trump, they won't vote for Trump, and it doesn't matter what Biden does, right? I see these things. People, I don't care if Biden's a corpse. I don't care if he's completely dazed and doesn't say unable to speak a word. I would vote for him over Trump, right? They say that, right? But I mean, practically, we can't have a leader of the country who's a vegetable, and that's what they're trying to defend right now. Is basically a non-compass mentis or whatever that phrase is president, and that's not a job you can do You know, you can't do that like adult. You can't do that demented.
Yeah, so I mean, this whole thing has thrown the Democrats into a lot of disarray. I mean, we see people just like I mentioned, Bennett, Nancy Pelosi. We saw Jerry Nadler come in and navigate a 180. It's kind of like at first,
Nadler, yeah, he comes in and he says, I think it's time for him to step. The next day, well, I don't know. I don't know that 180 is quite the accurate description there because he comes out of the caucus meeting, right? Which the caucus meeting was rough, right? There were people crying and yelling and screaming in the caucus meeting, and he comes out and says, they had decided, we're not going to come out against Biden as a caucus. We're going to support Biden as a caucus for now. So he comes out and he says, well, Biden's our guy. So I think what he was saying is, the group has decided to do this, and it's not necessarily that the group, he has changed his mind.
Yeah. So there's a lot of pressure on the Democrats, though, right? To kind of coalesce and say, we're going to have to be behind Biden. There's just a tremendous amount of pressure, but there are numerous defectors, and it's I don't know. I mean, it's been a while to see how this is all developed. This is a crisis for the Democrats.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like, I read somebody yesterday, a leftist on X, say, today I have blocked James Carville, Rob Reiner, and who else was it? The other guy who said, Reid Hoffman maybe, has said.
Oh, from LinkedIn?
Yeah. I've blocked all of them. Okay, so, first of all, it's the leftist habit of, if you say something that, doesn't comport with my view of the world, I don't want to hear it. I will turn it off. I will make it inaccessible to my brain. It's not like I will entertain that thought and I will say, are they right? I will think about what they said, or I will, raise up my reasons that I don't think what they said, right? It's don't talk to me. I'm not going to even entertain that. It's not coming into my consciousness, right? And that's what they do. And so it's like, if you say something that I find unpleasant, I'm just going to block it because I can't take unpleasant. I can't take it. I can't take reality intruding. So these are the people that want to make the decisions for the country, right? So, they're in a real problem. Another thing is like, and I think, there's some alarming things going on here. Things that like we have never seen. We've been in this like media bias business for decades and have never seen some of the stuff that's going on now. The other day, it's like I've been out of town, right? I get home, I get my Monday Washington Post. There are two stories on the front page about Biden's campaign crumbling, his support crumbling, all the people arguing that he should get out. Two stories on the front page. The editorial page was an E.J. Dionne column saying it's probably best that he gets out. E.J. Dionne, the long-time liberal, standard liberal columnist for the Post, right? And all the letters to the editor, there must have been a piece while I was out of town from Jill Biden about him staying in or whatever. And so all, because their letters to the editor are, in general, they're pretty strict about this too. Reactions to pieces that have ran in the paper, right? So, the reaction to her piece, every single response, every single letter to the editor they printed that day, and there was about 6 or 7 of them, and some of them were quite long, was, Joe Biden, you idiot, you're putting your husband through something he shouldn't go through. You should let him pull out. This is elder abuse. You just want to hold on to power. In the Washington Post, right? So you try to get a letter into the Washington Post and see what happens. If you get one in, let me know, right? Because it's not going to happen. They're going to, Don Irvine, no, right? That's not going to happen, right? They know who you are, and they're not going to put you in the paper. So, the fact that they're letting this in and coordinating their coverage in this way tells you that they see the writing on the wall too.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other part. I mean, as you mentioned, we've been in this for decades. I guess I could go back to when I first was leafleting for a political campaign for a school board. My father had me putting out flyers around neighborhood. I was about 8 years old. Okay.
Yeah.
That's 57 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, now I'm not going to say I spent my entire childhood being some political something, but it was because of that I did pay attention to politics probably more so than any other kid from the age of like, when I was 18.
Yeah, I was the only kid in my neighborhood in the summer of '74 who watched the Watergate hearings. I was glued to that. All my friends were like, what? There's old men talking? We could be playing ball? I'm like, man, this is important.
Yeah,
so I was
mean,
like a junkie from a young age.
I don't know that I watched it, from all, from the beginning to the end, but I watched a fair amount of it.
Yeah,
It's history. I mean, it's something that goes out there, and I think you have to see that. I was a kind of, I always read or at least skimmed the newspaper from front to back.
Yeah.
I read every single section. I read stories in every single section of the newspaper.
Yeah, me too.
I didn't just pull out the sports page, like
yeah. One of the best things that happened to me is, I became a sports writer for the morning daily newspaper when I was 15. And so, part of my job was I did the sports agate page, right? The standings and the box scores and all that kind of stuff. So you're just sitting there scrolling the wire, right? Now the wires are segregated, where it's sports and all. But back then, they were just started to have wires, right? On computer, right? They'd had wire services for a long time, obviously. But they were on so I'm just sitting at the computer scrolling, and there was a Washington Post, LA Times, Chicago Tribune wire. And they took the stuff from the best stuff from all those all those papers, and put them on the, online on this thing where you could read them. It was online is kind of it's not really the proper term for what was going on back in 1977. But so I'm sitting there reading the best writers in the country on, sports, politics, news of the day, whatever, for free, as just part of my job. So it was very interesting. I learned a lot from it, and you saw how journalism works in a way that, it's hard to imagine many people have seen it from the inside that much.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was officially like a Washington Post stringer for sports for our high school. Now that I kind of think about it, I guess they sent me a check, at the end of every season. So I actually got paid by the Washington Post. How about that?
There you go.
I don't know. I think it was maybe $3 a game. But you kind of know the routine, right? They don't have the personnel to cover the high school sports. And so the football games, you'd call a designated number, and then you'd leave the score and some statistics, and then some of that would wind up in the paper in those small little box scores, and then they would just run 10 or 12 or 15 of them at a time or whatever.
I answered millions of those calls. Sports, Brian McNichol. Hello, Manny football and Campty football,
it's amazing to see how much things have changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're so old school in that way.
There you go.
So what about all this, the swirl of controversy about Parkinson?
Well, so there's been a White House doctor. There's been a doctor who's visited the White House 8 times over the last 2 years, and he's a Parkinson's guy. Some of the cases spent 8 or 10 hours with Biden. A couple of cases though, Biden wasn't there. It's hard to know what to make of it. There was a guy on TV, and he was on CNN. He wasn't on Fox or anything, but who said, he's the doctor who deals with this kind of stuff, and he said, this is a first year medical student can diagnose Biden with Parkinson's. You know enough about the characteristics of the disease already to say, and the guy kept saying, but that's a tough diagnosis. Nope, that's an easy diagnosis. He obviously has Parkinson's. So these are people speculating. The people who treated him are the people who were, the doctor who went to this, I guess they had some letter they put out where he said, that he wasn't there to treat Biden for Parkinson's. So they're known to lie, but they could be telling the truth. I don't really think it matters whether he has Parkinson's. Right? I think it matters that he put out the debate performance he did Thursday night. If he can have Parkinson's and not stammer and stumble like that, then him having Parkinson's wouldn't be a problem, right? If he doesn't have Parkinson's and he's stammering and stumbling like that, it doesn't matter. It's still a problem, right? The problem is he can't function in the job that he's trying to have.
Yeah. So I mean, the New York Times has reported on it, and I guess the White House came back and said, I guess King Jean-Pierre said that this guy visits. There's a lot of people, but he refused to say who he visited, right?
Yeah. Right. They're playing games with it, and probably, the New York Times, just like the Wall Street Journal, had the story about, Biden slipping. He's slipping. He's not very good mentally anymore. Oh, that's total lies. They're making up lies. And then the debate comes out, and it's like, no, that reporting was probably pretty good. So we'll see. But, I don't really think it matters. I think that, you can look at without knowing anything about Parkinson's, you can look at Biden and see, and the thing about it is, and I think the point that Trump people need to make is, don't think about right now. Think about a year from now. Think about 2 years from now. Who is going to be running the country, right? Because you cannot say to the foreign leaders that, we have this guy and we have this strong committee behind him. That's not going to feed the bulldog, right? You can already see, like, Putin, he bombed a children's hospital in Ukraine, right, last week, for no apparent reason. He I guess they arrested Navalny's wife yesterday. Putin is no longer looking at the United States as an impediment to anything he wants to do. He is completely out of his box and free to conduct himself and his country and his foreign policy as he sees fit. We are not considered a check on him right now, or on China. If they, so you're about to find out if they could do whatever they wanted with America out of the picture, what would they do? That's what they're going to be doing right now because they don't feel constrained at all.
Yeah. I just don't really know sometimes about
what's going on with these guys. That hospital attack was horrific. And yet,
unnecessary.
Yet world leaders still kissing up to Putin and everything like that. So that's not good for them in the long run. I don't know. I mean, as a world leader, Biden's not. We're just seeing a leadership problem. But the question is like, what are we doing here? Kamala Harris. I'm sure this is something she's dying. She would love to be president, right? But what's is there a really legitimate path to get her there? Her polling is not good, and her support level from the Democrats, I think, is not very good. So
let's rewind to her campaign in 2020, right? Right, she came in. She had the whole national press assembled, and everybody was looking forward to it. And she had all these people that were going to step in and speak for her and all this. And she was out before Iowa. I mean, she was a complete bust. Her sister came in and was running things, and everybody hated her sister, and all the campaign people quit. Right? Remember, she had Simone Sanders doing her press, and she I ain't messing with these people. Simone, you're too crazy for Simone Sanders. You're too crazy, right? I don't see it. And I don't even see, the Democrats, I guess they'll do anything to try to beat Trump, right? But, that's what it's all about now is can they stop Trump? Because I think they're resigned to the fact they don't really have a candidate to put forward.
Yeah, I think the Wall Street Journal referred to it too as Democrats are kind of resigned to the fact that they have to stick with Biden.
Right, they do. They don't really, the money can only transfer to Kamala, right? If you give money to Biden-Harris campaign, we can't just give it to Gavin Newsom, right? That does not compute. So, I mean, they can, there's workarounds to that, and, they're pretty good at workarounds over there on that side. But the fact of the business is, that's what you're doing. It'll be seen as a workaround, and it's not a lot of money. And I think, there's no, you'll get a polling bump for a week or two. Oh, wow, exciting new young candidates in the race. And then people will say, not ready for prime time, because they're not.
Yeah, and the poll, there's been a lot of polling of Newsom and all these other people against Trump, and
they're worse than
Biden.
Yeah, they're worse than Biden. Biden's their horse. They're riding that horse. It's not going to change.
Yeah, so that's for better or for worse. And as we said earlier, it looks much better for the Republicans overall if Biden stays in. And Biden has said he's not going anywhere. I'm sure Dr. Mills, she wants to make sure he doesn't go anywhere.
Right. The other thing is, if you think about it, so Biden's grift, right, his influence peddling and whatnot, is made for a lavish lifestyle for his wife, his kids, their spouses, his brothers and sisters, their spouses. They're all involved in this. They're all getting these mysterious checks from China, right? So when the moment Joe's not able to grift anymore, their lifestyle takes a dramatic downward turn, and most of them are not, where's Hunter Biden going to get a job? Who's going to hire it? So I mean, it's kind of an extinction event for their family, to try to, you got to prop him up and try your best, because, all those houses and cars and trips and, shopping trips, right? A lot of what the Bidens took as bribes was, go shopping in some store and spend all you want, right? They like the material stuff. So that's what it was. I mean, it's down to the point where, I guess last night Jill spoke, and she told the lie that Bo died in combat, and she told the lie that Trump said suckers and losers. So she's just as bad as him.
Yeah, that's something else. And then there's Stephanopoulos. I guess he got
right. That's Velvet Hammer too. So Stephanopoulos talked to him. A lot of the leftists were upset about that, because it was basically, he was on, the question he was there to ask is, are you fit to keep doing this? And why do you think you're fit? And how are you going to turn this around? And, he didn't ask him about his, policy on Greenland or whatever. He stuck to that subject. And, they're like, oh, how dare he do that to him? It's like, it's a rare moment in our lives that, like, the Democrats are mad at Stephanopoulos. They're mad at Rob Reiner. It's like, it's, you can't make this up. Now there is, it's going to shake out one way or the other, right? They're going to have their convention, and somebody's going to come out of that as a nominee. My suspicion is it will be Biden. And then you're going to have about a 2-month run where it's going to be, this stuff will be factored into people's thinking, but it won't be top of mind, as Karine Jean-Pierre says. It won't be top of mind.
So the Stephanopoulos interview, I mean, the Democrats were hoping this was, and I'm sure that you would like, but this was a way for Joe to redeem himself and fix what went wrong. But
or else totally disqualify himself.
Yeah.
Spit up on stage, mumble, fall off, whatever. Oh, see, we're done. Okay, but he didn't really give them a conclusive answer, right? It was sort of, well, he mumbled some stuff. He doesn't really have good answers of like how to turn it around. It didn't really move the needle, right? He needed to move the needle. The needle, keeping the needle in the same place is not sufficient, right? At this point, you gotta be able to push it the other way. And I think that's what the Democrats are realizing is, they're not really all that far behind. They're about 3 or 4 points behind nationwide, and most of the states, some of the states have slipped away. Georgia, Nevada, Arizona, they're not going to win those states. But, they still see themselves as competitive in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. But those states have moved decisively in Trump's favor in the last few weeks. And I think the question the Democrats have is how will you stop this momentum, right? How do we turn this back to us? Because right now it doesn't feel like they have a way to do that.
Yeah, I think he said something during this interview about that. If he loses, he'll have given it his best, or something to that effect, right?
Yeah.
It's like, as the sitting president, I don't think that's the message you want to say to your supporters.
That's right.
I
tried. That's not what we want to hear. It's like, no, we're winning. I've got a plan. We're doing this and that and the other, So, I mean, they're down to they're arguing over Project 2025. They're brought up the Katie Johnson stuff again. It's like, I don't understand that because, Biden has more exposure on Ashley's diary than Trump does on Katie Johnson, right? And Katie Johnson is not even anybody's real name, right? That was a fake name given to someone who didn't file a lawsuit because her lawyers concluded that she was not telling the truth. So there's nothing to that, but it's all being brought up and dispensed again in hopes of dousing the momentum of Trump, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah. All right.
Most people don't even realize it.
And what about the other thing we learned? Well, we had on the thing with Stephanopoulos. So we had the interview. Then he was asked on the street of New York. TMZ put this out. I don't think he'll serve 4 years. That kind of blew up. And then I guess this morning or something like that, he apologized. I guess never should have said that. Like you can't take that back. It's like you're recording.
Apologize for being honest. As only a Democrat can.
The Democrats. I mean, it's just everywhere they turn, it's just like just another blow, to the whole presidency, the candidacy of Joe Biden. Boom, boom, like this, and then that revelation about radio hosts that they've been fed questions. Like, where have we heard this before?
Well, I want to say this about that. Okay, so when these guys go on radio stations, right? A lot of the people who interview them are not prepared, right? They don't really know what to ask. They're not political people. They're music people or whatever. So they're sort of in a tough role there, talking to a president, and presidents, staffs are. It's a long tradition to say, here's 3 or 4 questions that, he's kind of up on responding to that you could get into your interview with. So it's not a crime of the century to me. I think that's a reasonably common practice. What was going on there? I don't blame them for doing it. Now they can't do it. Now it's just like you're on your own.
Yeah, I understand that aspect of it. But on the other hand, if that's all you know is that you're being fed by the campaign, I don't know. That's good. I don't know if that's good station. I mean, when it comes out like this, it looks bigger probably than it should. Right.
It makes the station look bad. This is now a known thing. Makes the people who took those questions and asked them look bad, right? But it's it doesn't reflect badly. I don't think on the Biden press office. I think it's done. I think it's done in the interest of being helpful.
Yeah. I mean, I think it just, but it does remind people of like Donald Brazil, and Hillary Clinton, and just those things, just how.
Right. Yeah, you're right. It's like it comes at a bad time. That little story, and it's like, I'm giving you an explanation here weeks later. That explanation doesn't do anything to that public debate, right? The debate over whether they should be given questions to the radio people is over, right? They've said, okay, we won't do that anymore. And the radio fired the guy who took the questions. And, the radio stations are all like, oh, we're not taking your questions anymore. If we ever did, we'll stop, so, but I mean, everybody knows what happened. And it's like the debate, they can talk about, it was one bad night and he had a cold and he was tired. It was a long trip before that and this and that and the other. But we can't unsee what we saw on that debate.
Yeah, I know we talked about those excuses, but I just can't help myself once again. These were the worst set of excuses, but they kept adding more excuses on top of the excuses. Only made it worse.
Right. That's right. And they kept adding excuses, hoping to find one that would catch. It's like that tells me that if you want to say he had a cold, he was sick, then you can't come back and point out other stuff, right? He either had a cold or he didn't, right? When you point out other stuff, you're like, okay, we know that the cold excuse did not work, right? We know that the country found that to be balderdash.
Is Green Jean-Pierre feeling the heat a little bit now?
Well, things have changed for her. It's now people that were asking her pretty friendly questions are now asking her pretty aggressive questions, and she's not not ready. She's getting treated rather harshly, right? She doesn't really understand what they're about, and she is definitely getting treated badly right now. She doesn't know what to do.
Yeah, I mean,
it's interesting. It's like, okay, Biden hired her because she is black and gay, right? He hired Harris because she's a black woman, right? So his affirmative action hires, and you can't say they're not because, he said, I'm going to pick a black woman. I'm picking you because you're a black woman, right? I mean, Harris savaged him during the debates. There's no evidence that there was any kind of simpatico with her and Biden. And early in the administration, there were stories would leak out. It was pretty clear that they were not friends in any, sense of the word, right? But now she's seeing, she's playing the part of, hey, if I have to step in, me and Joe, we're joined at the hip. It's all good. So she's playing that role. But, they didn't get along, and she went after him hard. She called him a racist, all this stuff. So, the Harris clips from the 2020 debates, you'll be seeing them again pretty soon.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, you look what Biden has done, and I've said this a ton of times. It's just this whole DEI hires from every administration, the cabinet, and it's boxed in. It's giving them lots of headaches. And it's the party now in a really tough spot.
Right, because they can't get rid of him because she's worse. Basically it's the truth.
But Kamala will do whatever she can for the good of the party.
Right, but
go ahead.
I guess I read somewhere Willie Brown said, when she was nominated to be vice president, he's like, y'all realize she's really smart, she's really tough, and she's going to get herself on the ticket next time. She's going to be the president in she's going to be running in 2024. Y'all don't realize that, but she is. She's lined up for it. She knows how to do it, and he's pretty close to being right.
Yeah. Well, we're going to wait and see. I think the Democratic National Convention in August, which people were already going to be interested in because it's in Chicago. There were going to be lots of protests. They already had created zones to keep protesters away and all this stuff. And they have that stage of 1968 and all these things. Now all eyes will be focused on that. If Biden doesn't make the move before that, like, is he going to keep that torch, or is he going to pass the torch, or what's he going to do? What's the party going to do? What's the mood of the convention going to be?
All right, that's right. It's going to be we're tearing at each other, and this is the best we can come up with, and the electeds, the other people, the people who are trying to run for re-election, are increasingly going to be against Biden because they see it as a dreadnought. They see it as pulling them down.
Yeah, I mean, can you see? I mean, Gavin Newsom, Elizabeth Warren, they show up to the convention, but they're also maybe cajoling and doing a little bit of work, trying to get the room feel the room. What would happen if Joe decides not to run? Could I make a run for it? Would you support me? Would you, if you release some delegates, what would happen?
What are you looking for in the next person?
Right.
A bright smile?
Yeah. No, I mean, for us, we've been around the block a few times. This is going to be kind of fascinating in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it is. The whole thing is fascinating.
Yeah. I don't know. I may never see anything like this again in my life. Right?
That's right. It's it's always something. And I think that Trump is doing the right thing. He is just doing his thing. He is pointing out that Biden is not with it, right? Whenever he can, and he's doing his campaign. He's staying out of the way. He's not getting himself in trouble. He's also, I thought it was brilliant that they discovered Project 2025, and the Democrats wanted to make the whole debate about that. And Trump's like, wait, here's my platform, and they RNC passed it, and there's a little bit of consternation about it because the pro-life language is, he doesn't really say anything about that. But I mean, what Trump has said is, we fought 49 years to get it remanded to the states. It needs to be fixed at the state level. That's what we sought as Republicans, right? Is, get it out of the federal government saying, you have a right to an abortion. You do not have a right to an abortion, right? So now you can, fight it out among the states to whatever it actually is going to be. But that's the right policy. That's the right policy. And I say this as a hardcore, staunch pro-lifer, that it's not, that's go win the hearts and minds at the state level. It's the easiest way to do it. Takes a long time, and there's more states than there is federal government. But those are the winnable elections, right? You can find a sweet spot and get people on your side. Whereas, saying, where's our support for a national abortion ban? Why isn't that in the platform? When that costs you 10 or 12 points of voters, right? It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, as much as it pains me to see states codify abortion into their constitutions and whatnot, they're doing it the way that we really believe in. We said give it to the states and let the states decide. Right. And you're right. Win the hearts and minds of the states, of the voters, the populace of the state. And maybe they'll be able to make another way. So you have a mix. Right? You've got a lot of the deep blue states that are going to say abortion is fine and legal. And you've got a lot of the deep red states saying, no, it's not. And here are the conditions, and everything like that. So it's going to be a path for, but it's not a national, it's not the federal government saying you can't do this. Right. So if you want an abortion, you move to that state. If you don't, if you want to be protected, you're very pro-life, you move to that state or whatever. I don't have a problem with that part of it.
Right, and then you say to the people, well, a poor girl in Missouri can't have to drive all the way to Illinois. Like, then don't get an abortion. You don't have a right to an abortion, so we're not going to give you a bus ride to Illinois to get an abortion.
Yeah, I think the liberals are always like, well, that's more cruel and mean. I mean,
don't killing your baby is pretty cruel and mean,
Yeah, exactly.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, but the liberals don't see it that way. I mean, not all.
Yeah.
All right, I didn't put this down, but I thought about that this morning. What about, looks like Trump is teasing VP candidates now as we're getting closer to the convention. He's kind of testing the waters. How does this flow? How does this go? I mean, do you have any feel for what you've been reading or anything like that as to where he's likely to go?
I still think it's going to be DeSantis. I think that shores up the part of the party that he's most worried about, right? Like the straight line conservatives, people who probably voted for Bush, right? So he's, I still think that's what it is. I see these other people, he's obviously, I guess, talking to Marco. People tell me that DeSantis, you have a 12th Amendment problem. Why then don't you have a 12th Amendment problem with Marco, right? He lives in Florida too. So, or we assume he does, he's a senator from there. So I don't know. So I tend to believe that, until I see differently, that's where he's going. I also think that they are committed to not litigating all this stuff in the press again. I think that the people running his campaign are, they're making him close to the vest. They're making that real for Trump. They're making him actually hold things close to the vest.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious about the whole 12th Amendment thing. Like, why one foot, not the other? Right? I'm a little, but
and Trump can just say, "I now live in Bedminster."
Yeah.
So I'm from New Jersey. He's from Florida. Let's go.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to hold him back. I think there's a will. Where there's a will, there's a way on that one.
Yeah. Is there more suspense about this than when he ran in 2016?
Yeah, I think there is. I think that it was kind of predictable the direction he would go then, and I think that you think about it, the media has been settled on certain candidates for months now that they think it is, and there's not really a strong case that any of those people is the favorite.
Yeah, they seem to be very hard on JD Vance too.
Yeah, and I don't see Trump risking a Senate seat in Ohio, and Vance is a young guy, and who does he bring to the party? You're going to win Ohio anyway. You're going to win Vance's voters anyway. I don't see what he adds, right? So, Vance, Burgum, what does Burgum add? I think these guys have been real effective surrogates, and they may end up in the government some which way, but I don't think that they're the vice president.
Yeah, I mean, as I've looked at it over the years, I think the vice president needs to be strategic. So yeah, I agree with you on Vance. I would hate to see him take Vance out of Ohio. That would risk that Senate seat. Using somebody else from Florida. I mean, Ohio's become more reliable Republican, but you never
need a candidate, right? I'm not sure the candidate would be.
To automatically fill that seat. So it gets a little messy. We have to really kind of look at the big picture and say, how does this really work? And there are definitely people out there that you can select that it wouldn't affect Republican control. Numbers in the Senate overall, they just need to replace them, and things like that. So yeah, I think DeSantis or Rubio are reasonable choices because they stay Republican either way.
Right.
And
that's right. And they both bring a part of the party that is skeptical of Trump.
Yeah. And I think DeSantis.
He's also like Trump was talking last night at the rally about Kamala being assassination insurance. And I think that's very much true of DeSantis too. No one's going to kill Trump and risk putting him in charge.
All right. So as we turn the corner and get towards the end of the show, I do want to address what's happening overseas. We've been talking the last few weeks about these elections as they've been building up, and how the Tories took quite a beating, and then in France it reversed itself. The first round that went to Marine Le Pen and Paul Wright was then went to the left. Because of the way the elections are designed, is that Macron and the left coalition kind of basically banded together. Now, Macron's still got a problem because there still may be a hung parliament. He's got to get those people together. That's a crazy kind of people. His prime minister is probably going to have to resign as a result of this. Maybe they get a left-wing minister. The people on the left in France are really kind of kooky. And then in the UK, Nigel Farage won a seat in Parliament. He's part of the European Parliament. He won this first seat in the UK Parliament. After 7 tries, this was his 8th try, he did it. There's only 5 of those guys that got elected, but the turnout was horribly low.
In Britain, in the UK, there was no what's the word I'm looking for? Momentum behind the Tories at all. The Tories were like where the Democrats are now. They're run by a sclerotic old guy. and whose policies weren't popular and haven't really worked, and no plan offered to turn anything around. And they sort of got the you're in power a certain amount of time, and your leaders become decrepit and unresponsive, and you get punished for it. And I think that's what happened to them. As for France, Le Pen's party got a lot more votes in the second election than Macron's party or the party they coalesced with or trying to coalesce with, right? She got her party got like 9 million, and they got like 5.5 million or something like that. I could be off on the numbers, but it was a big difference. Okay, they got a lot more votes. Okay, so the next time you hear somebody complain about the two-party system in the U.S., think about, so you now have, two parties that don't have the votes, that don't have the support of the people, coalescing to run the government because they made a deal, the elites made a deal to block the party that the people actually voted for from taking power, okay? And they're able to do that there, and that's okay, it's legal and whatnot. But now you essentially have Antifa running France, right? You have, the first night they were in power, there was attacks on Jews all over France, right? They just went out, it was like Kristallnacht, just went out and started, causing trouble and destroying property and hurting people, right? Because, there's no check on them anymore. So, we'll see how popular the new French government is and how long it lasts. But the voters were for Le Pen, for her party. So, that's not really they didn't really repudiate, right-leaning politics there.
Right. I mean, the same thing as we talk about the UK is that Labour got fewer votes than Keir Starmer got fewer votes than Jeremy Corbyn. This term was horrible. So you don't have a mandate to go forward with much, and so your government is going to be scrutinized. And I saw a report where I guess in 2010. The Labour exchequer left a note for the Conservative exchequer said, good luck or something. There's no money left. Same thing is basically happening to the Labour Party. Both France and Great Britain, they're facing some severe economic issues that the left or the Liberals, are not going to be able to solve.
Right, it's going to get worse. So, the Conservatives will get another chance in France and the UK very quickly, right? And you're already seeing, Israel, Portugal, Spain. Italy, Portugal, Spain, Hungary, most of it, Eastern Europe going the other direction, right? Going toward populism, toward being responsive to the people.
All right. Well, take us out.
Okay, let me look on our little list. We actually got through a lot of it. So, I didn't understand the poopy Goldberg.
She said about it. You remember the thing about Biden kind of sitting down, people think he made pooping his pants. She said she's had her poopy moments too, kind of a thing. So.
Stuff we didn't really need to know.
You asked.
It says Biden's going to spend $50 million on ads in July. It'll be interesting to see if that actually happens because, fundraising's drying up for them. There's a lot of it may resume, right? But there's a lot of people holding that checkbook now because they don't know what's going to happen if he's the right guy to sink their money into. Trump challenged him to debate with no moderators. I don't think he will accept that. He also challenged him yesterday to golf, 18 holes. He said he'd give him 20 strokes, so more than a stroke a hole. And we haven't heard from Biden on whether he'll do that. All-Star game is this week in Arlington. Tuesday night in Arlington, Texas, is in the North Texas Agricultural Center there, or whatever they call that stadium now. But it looks like one of those ag barns where they have the horse competitions and whatnot. R.I.P. for James Inhoffe. He was a very good senator on energy issues and a stalwart conservative.
All right. Got to wrap this up. Thank you for joining us. Please, as always, stay safe and stay well. Remember, we live in the greatest country in the world. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. And as always, stop America. And I promise I'm going to have to work on the sound. I'm going to try a bunch of different things next week. All right. Bye-bye, everybody.